Hi, welcome to my channel, or welcome back. What's going on with people these days? Many young people I've spoken to over the past few years say they're chronically tired. They don't sleep well, they feel stressed, and many of them say they have anxiety attacks. Many also say they experience ringing in the ears, dizziness, a feeling of loss of equilibrium, a feeling of being off balance. And sure, 2020 to now, July 2026, has been, wow, really something, but there just seems to be more to it than that, and it's so persistent. So I asked a few questions. I started thinking about the hum that people in the United States complain about when it comes to data centers, big data centers. They said it disrupts their sleep and makes them feel stressed, and got me thinking. So I decided to ask this AI program, and you ask whichever AI program you want. But these are the results I got. When did I ask these questions? July 3rd, 2026. I asked, why are data centers in Canada and the United States so big when China fits huge AI data centers into a single skyscraper? Because that's what a lot of people have been telling us online. In North America, data centers are built as sprawling single-story campuses rather than the vertical towers, primarily because of cooling physics, grid architecture, and land availability. The differences between North American and Chinese data center designs stem from distinct engineering approaches and geographical realities. Land availability. Vast, flat, cheap land is readily available in Canada and the United States. And this got me interested, was Alberta, Canada. Oops, because that's where I am. Stuck. And I wanted to find out more about this. So I did my usual thing of saying, tell me the unsanitized version, the non-politically correct version. I want verifiable facts, truth, not what you think I want to hear. Then it told me about physics and gravity, thermodynamics, etc., etc. If you want to look into this, you go ahead and look into land is cheap, vertical construction is not. This talks about where vertical data centers actually do exist. Hong Kong, Singapore, Tokyo, London, New York, northern New Jersey. Then it talks about the logistics nightmare of upgrades and how AI hardware becomes obsolete every 2 to 3 years, and how it's easier to swap out thousands of server racks in a forklift operation. And here's where it got really interesting for me. Alberta has become the primary epicenter of the Canadian data center boom. Developers are rushing to the province because of its deregulated energy market, abundance of natural gas and renewables, and cool climate. The Alberta data center landscape is split into 3 distinct categories: established infrastructure, that is built, projects actively under construction, being built, and a massive queue of multi-billion-dollar gigawatt-scale proposals going to be built. So let's look at these. Alberta data center sectors. Built: Calgary area, Edmonton core, which means downtown, and other areas. Being built: Balzac, Rocky View County. Going to be built: Olds, Greenview, number 16, Wonder Valley, Leduc and Sturgeon counties. And rural clusters. Rocky View County, Ballsack area, a 300,000 square foot, 90 megawatt hyperscale data center, where they're going to be built. This is where the numbers, it says, get astronomically large. Olds, Alberta. Located on farmland, right on the edge of town. Greenview, number 16, near Grand Prairie, the home of Wonder Valley, a massively publicized project backed by that person. The proposed $12 billion Phase 1, that's Phase 1, is a staggering 7,000-acre project hidden in forest land. And I wonder how much of the forest will be cleared for this 7,000-acre project, and roads to access it. Then you're looking at the Edmonton vicinity, Edmonton and area, Sturgeon and Leduc counties. 400 acres off Township Road 502 in Leduc County, near Beaumont. Strathmore, Red Deer County, and Brazeau County. I wanted to know about what's in Edmonton itself. I certainly haven't heard that there's any data centers in Edmonton. The Downtown Financial Core, 10200 102 Avenue Northwest, 10060 Jasper Avenue, 10235 101 Street, 10250 101 Street, and keep in mind that there are residential condos and apartments all around this area, all throughout the downtown core. 10235 101 Street, 10250 101 Street. Then the northwest and south industrial corridors. Keep in mind, again, there are residential condos and apartments throughout. And I also forgot to mention there are motels, hotels, and so forth, spread all through these areas. 17204 114 Avenue, 14315 118 Avenue, 413095 Street, 17008 90 Street. It doesn't host massive hyperscale data centers. No, it doesn't have a 7,000-acre data center in the middle of Edmonton, but I didn't know that there were data centers in Edmonton, within the city limits. Then I said, do these small data centers in Edmonton create conditions for humans or wildlife or birds that could interfere with circadian rhythms, mental health, physical health, altered perception, tinnitus or tinnitus, or have any other negative or neutral impact? You'll see how it contradicts itself in a minute. To evaluate this objectively, it said, we must bypass the generic headlines written about massive multi-gigawatt American data center alleys and look strictly at the physics, scale, and environment of the specific, smaller facilities at Edmonton. And by small, this is, under 7,000 acres. The direct answer is that the current small data centers inside Edmonton do not create ambient conditions that alter human perception, disrupt regional wildlife migration, or impact avian circadian rhythms. However, they do generate localized physical stressors, specifically low-frequency industrial noise that can trigger tinnitus or tinnitus flare-ups, sleep degradation, and elevated stress for humans if they are located immediately adjacent to residential zones. These are adjacent to residential zones. The thing is, people do live in these areas, whether it's long-term or in motels, hotels. People work for 8, 10, 12 hours a day. There are daycare centers, and I'd like to point out how these answers contradict themselves. It says they don't create ambient conditions that alter human perception, disrupt regional wildlife migration, or impact avian circadian rhythms. I see, but they also do generate physical stressors, specifically low-frequency industrial noise that can trigger tinnitus, sleep degradation, and elevated stress. The real culprit, low-frequency tonal noise, or the hum. Data center's primary output is continuous 24/7 low-frequency noise, LFN, and infrasound, generally between 10 Hz and 125 Hz. This is caused by the physical spinning of massive industrial chiller, fans, air handling units, and water pumps required to keep the servers from melting. Tinnitus or tinnitus and altered perception. For a person with pre-existing tinnitus, or a sensitivity to specific acoustic tones, LFN, or low-frequency noise, does not create tinnitus out of nothing, but it acts as a severe psychological and physiological trigger. Because LFN creates a steady, uninterrupted tonal spike around 100 to 120 Hz, the human brain cannot naturally filter it out as background white noise. This results in a phenomenon called auditory fatigue, where a person experiences a persistent feeling of internal vibration, ear pressure, or a perceived ringing that remains even after they leave the area. The physics of buildings, higher frequency sounds like a human voice or a car horn are easily blocked by standard concrete walls and double paned glass. Low frequency sound waves have long wavelengths that pass through solid structures effortlessly. This means a person inside a home near a facility may hear the hum more clearly indoors at night because the ambient city noises have quieted down. Impact on circadian rhythms and mental health. Human sleep disruption. The body's circadian rhythm relies heavily on entering deep, uninterrupted REM, or rapid eye movement, and slow wave sleep. Even if a low-frequency noise hum is below the decibel threshold required to fully wake a person up, the brain's auditory cortex remains active and processes the sound 24/7. So tell me again how that doesn't impact circadian rhythms and mental health. This causes microarousals, preventing the brain from dropping into deep sleep cycles. The provable outcome of chronic sleep degradation is elevated cortisol production, stress hormone production, which directly leads to chronic fatigue, anxiety, and long-term cardiovascular stress. And let's look at the impact on wildlife and birds. Large, sprawling, rural, hyperscale data centers built in pristine rural areas cause documented wildlife disruption through all-night light pollution, which destroys migrating birds, interfering with migrating birds, and in Canada, any interference with migrating birds is a federal offense. Edmonton already generates a whole lot of light as a city. I found this interesting too. Vibrations in ecosystems. That low-frequency noise can alter the behavior of small burrowing rodents or insects immediately adjacent to an industrial property line. And it says Edmonton data centers sit on paved, heavily industrialized concrete plots that have been devoid of natural wildlife habitats for decades. Just because they've been devoid of natural wildlife habitats doesn't mean there aren't animals, native animals here, and birds and bees and so forth. Neutral and positive realities. For 99% of Edmonton's population, these specific small data centers, meaning not 7,000 acres, have a completely neutral impact. What's the most recent population count for Edmonton? 1.24 million people, or in the greater Edmonton area, 1.69 million people. So what's 1% of 1.2 million people? That's 12,400 people. So for 12,400 people, it's not a neutral impact. So if something impacts 12,400 people, shouldn't those 12,400 people have a say in it? And what about 1% of 1.69 million people? That's 16,900 people. I'd say if even one person is impacted by severe psychological and physiological triggers, hearing a hum, experiencing feelings of internal vibration, ear pressure, ringing of the ears, and disrupt human sleep, presumably disrupting animals' sleep too, disrupting your pet's sleep as well as human sleep, your sleep, disrupting your circadian rhythm, not letting you get uninterrupted, deep, rapid eye movement, REM, and slow wave sleep, preventing the brain from dropping into deep sleep cycles. The provable outcome of chronic sleep degradation is elevated cortisol, chronic fatigue, anxiety, long-term cardiovascular stress, among other things. I encourage you to look it up for yourself and decide, what is AI hallucinating about and what is it not hallucinating about? And if you're near one of these data centers that I, for one, had no idea were in Edmonton city limits, right next to people going about their daily life, living, working, trying to sleep, I have to question who makes these decisions to allow for zoning and building of places like this. Who took money from who to allow this to go ahead? Because if this is true, then there should be widespread outrage. People should be demanding that these data centers be shut down. Do I think that's going to happen in Canada? No, I don't. But I do encourage people in the United States, before their laws change so that they can't speak truth and they can't protest, I do encourage them to fight and fight hard against these data centers, and to also be aware that y'all may be looking at the big data centers, the 7,000 acres or 40,000 acre data centers, but how about looking for the data centers hidden in your neighborhood? Thanks for watching. Be safe.